Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling Brad Smith's tools and weapons.
Oh, yeah. This one's full of great stuff, especially if you're into procurement, supply chain, and marketing, like you are.
For sure. And that's why we wanted to take a closer look. I mean, Smith's perspective is so interesting,
Right.
right? He's president of Microsoft, so he's got this front row seat to how technology is changing the world.
Exactly. He
Yeah.
sees how it can be this incredible force for good, but also, it's got this dark side too. Like it can be misused, even weaponized.
Yeah, that whole double-edged sword thing really got me thinking.
Yeah.
It's easy to get excited about all the amazing things tech can do.
Totally. But Smith reminds us to, pump the brakes a little.
Right, not get carried away. He brings up facial recognition software. Like that's supposed to be about security.
Right.
But then you hear about it being used for mass surveillance, and it's like, well, hold on.
Yeah. That makes you realize we need some serious safeguards in place, which is a big part of his message.
He's really pushing for those stronger cybersecurity measures.
Definitely. And clear regulatory frameworks, industry standards. He's not just complaining, he's actually putting forward solutions.
I like that proactive approach,
Yeah.
especially with all the data breaches and privacy stuff happening. It makes you wonder, though,
What's that?
could too much regulation stifle innovation? I mean,
Hmm.
we don't want to slow down progress.
Right.
Right.
I think Smith would say it's about finding that balance.
Okay.
We need regulations that protect people but don't kill the creativity.
It's a tough one for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so let's switch gears a bit and talk AI and automation.
Ooh, big topic these days.
Huge. The potential is mind-blowing, but then you've got all these ethical questions.
Absolutely. Where do we even begin?
Right. What comes to mind for you when you think about AI growing, especially in fields like marketing?
Hmm. Well, one of the biggest things is transparency and accountability.
Right.
If these algorithms are making decisions that affect people's lives, we got to understand how those decisions are being made.
Otherwise, it's just a black box.
Exactly. And that's how you get bias creeping in unfair outcomes.
It's like we need a whole new set of ethical guidelines for the AI age. We can't just be making cool tech anymore. It's got to be responsible tech.
Totally. And that responsibility is on everyone, not just the developers. It's on the marketers, the procurement folks,
Yeah.
everyone using AI.
We're all shaping how this tech gets used.
For sure.
And speaking of shaping things, Smith's a big believer in governments and corporations working together.
Right. Oh, yeah. He says they both need to be at the table to create policies that encourage innovation.
But also make sure everything's ethical.
Right. It can't be one or the other.
He's all about a more proactive approach to regulation. Instead of waiting for problems to explode and then scrambling.
He wants to anticipate the issues, build in those safeguards from the start.
Like baking ethics right into the code.
I like that analogy.
So it's about thinking about the consequences at every stage, not just after the fact.
Exactly. And that leads into another point he makes about digital inclusion, closing that gap between
Oh,
the
yeah.
haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, the digital divide. He's really passionate about that.
Yeah. Because it's about more than just having the latest gadgets,
Mhm.
right? It's about access to education, healthcare, economic opportunity.
All those things that are so tied to tech now.
And for someone interested in procurement and supply chain like you get, imagine the impact you could have.
Yeah. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately.
You could be advocating for tech investments that benefit not just the company, but society as a whole, pushing for a more equitable future.
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah, okay.
But how exactly can procurement pros help bridge that digital divide?
Well, for one thing, they can choose vendors who are committed to ethical practices and promoting digital inclusion.
So it's about making conscious choices, aligning your spending with your values.
Exactly. And you can use that purchasing power to support companies that are developing tech for underserved communities.
It's not just buying stuff anymore. It's about shaping the tech landscape.
Precisely. And that's what I love about Smith's book. He pushes us to see beyond the transaction,
To see the potential to really make a difference.
to build a better world.
Yeah. It's a big challenge, but it's also exciting. You
Yeah.
know? Like we're at this crossroads, and the decisions we make now.
They have ripple effects.
Yeah.
Huge ones.
It's not just about us. It's about the future.
And we're not just passive bystanders.
We're active participants.
Uh-huh.
We have agency.
We can choose the path we want to take.
That's the power we have.
And that's what makes this conversation so important.
Absolutely. So we need to be thinking about these things, talking about them.
Figuring out how to build a future we can all be proud of.
One where tech is a force for good for everyone.
I'm with you on that one. So glad we had this chat today.
Me too. Always a good reminder to think bigger.
For sure. Okay. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and dig into some of the criticisms of Smith's ideas, get a little more critical.
That's good. I'm ready for round two.
Yeah. It's a good point, though, right? We've got to remember Smith coming from inside a major tech company,
Absolutely. Tools and weapons. It's written from that specific perspective.
which, can be really valuable. It gives you that
Ah,
inside look, for sure. But it also means we should be thinking critically about everything.
right. Not just taking it all as gospel.
Exactly. Even if it comes from a respected source like Brad Smith, we need to look at things from multiple angles.
Totally. It's like that saying, there are three sides to every story, yours, mine, and the truth.
Ooh, I like that. And finding that truth means considering different viewpoints.
Hmm.
Who might be missing from the conversation.
Makes you a more well-rounded thinker, for sure.
Yeah,
Especially with something as complex as, the ethics of technology.
definitely. It's not always black and white.
Another thing that struck me about the book is that Smith, he offers some really innovative solutions,
He does.
but he also acknowledges the challenges of actually putting them into practice.
Right, like it's not always as simple as it sounds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He talks about using AI to tackle climate change, but he doesn't sugarcoat how difficult that would be.
It gets into the nitty-gritty.
That's where your learner mindset comes in.
Right.
Smith gives you the big picture, but it's up to individuals to figure out,
How to make it happen in the real world.
yeah. The book lays out the vision, but it doesn't necessarily give you the step-by-step guide.
And that's okay. It's about taking those concepts and figuring out, okay, how does this apply to my situation?
What can I do with this?
Right. Whether you're in procurement, supply chain marketing, it's about making it relevant to your world.
So for me, thinking about procurement, what really stands out is that idea of vendor selection.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, it's not just about getting the best price anymore. It's about ethical tech use.
You're hitting on a huge point there. Procurement professionals have so much power to drive responsible tech adoption.
It's about looking beyond the bottom line and considering the bigger picture.
The long-term impact, right?
If we want to create a more ethical tech landscape, we need to choose partners who share those values.
Absolutely. It's about putting your money where your mouth is.
And it's not just about who you partner with, but how you manage those relationships.
Ooh, good point. Like, are you asking the tough questions about data security? Are you holding your vendors accountable?
You have that influence as a procurement pro,
It's like you become this ethical gatekeeper in a way.
making sure the tech we bring in aligns with our values
Exactly. Using your position to advocate for responsible tech adoption.
across the whole supply chain.
And speaking of supply chains, Smith really highlights the potential of AI, blockchain, IoT to, transform everything.
Right. But again, it comes back to implementation.
Yeah. We can't just chase efficiency and forget about everything else.
It's like with blockchain. It's got this incredible potential for transparency.
Trace a product's journey. Ensure ethical sourcing. Reduce fraud.
But to make it work,
Yeah.
you need collaboration data sharing, which can be tough.
It takes commitment from everyone involved.
It's like any powerful tool. It can be used for good or bad.
We need to be mindful of those unintended consequences.
Make sure we're using tech in a way that benefits everyone.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the human element. Smith emphasizes considering the impact on people's lives,
We can't lose sight of that.
especially in marketing, I think.
Oh, definitely. Consumers are getting more aware of how their data is used.
They're demanding transparency. They want control.
So what does that mean for marketers? Like if you're excited about AI-driven campaigns, but you also want to maintain trust,
It's a balancing act for sure.
what are some of the key principles?
Well, I think transparency is number one. Be upfront about how you're using AI and data to personalize those messages.
Don't hide it.
Right? Explain the benefits to the consumer. Give them the option to opt out if they're not comfortable.
So it's more of a collaborative approach now.
Exactly. The consumer's not just a target. They're a participant.
It's about building relationships based on trust and respect.
And being open and honest about how you're using data and AI.
It's a different way of thinking, for sure.
But I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Moving away from that old transactional model.
Towards something more human-centered,
Ethical.
more sustainable in the long run.
That's the goal, at least.
Yeah. It's a really interesting shift. So much to think about, We've covered a lot of ground here. Talking about tools and weapons. What are some of the biggest takeaways for you?
I think the core idea that really sticks with me is that technology, it's not good or bad in itself,
It's a tool.
right? Like any tool. It can be used in different ways. It all comes down to the choices we make.
How we develop it, how we use it, how we regulate it.
Exactly. And those choices, they have real consequences. Smith doesn't shy away from the potential downsides.
But he's also optimistic.
Oh, yeah. He definitely thinks we can create a future where tech is used to empower people, solve global challenges.
This is not going to happen magically.
Not at all. It takes effort, collaboration, a willingness to face those tough ethical questions.
And it's not just on the shoulders of tech companies or governments. It's on all of us.
Everyone has a role to play.
That's a powerful message, especially for someone like you who's eager to learn and make a difference. So as you dive deeper into procurement, supply chain marketing, how do you see yourself applying these insights?
That's a big question.
Yeah. What actions can you take to contribute to a more ethical and responsible tech landscape?
Well, I think it starts with awareness, you know, being mindful of the impact of your decisions.
Whether you're choosing a vendor, implementing a new system, designing a campaign,
Right. And then having the courage to speak up if something doesn't feel right.
to challenge the status quo if necessary.
Exactly. It's not enough to just understand these concepts. You got to put them into action.
Sometimes that means being a little uncomfortable,
Yeah. But it's worth it, you know?
and you don't have to have all the answers right away.
Totally. It's about asking the right questions, staying informed.
Having those tough conversations with colleagues, vendors, consumers even.
It's a learning process for everyone.
We're all figuring it out together.
But the important thing is that we're having these conversations. We're trying to build a better future.
A future where tech is a force for good for everyone.
That's the dream.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into tools and weapons.
It's been a pleasure.
I hope everyone listening feels inspired to keep learning and exploring these crucial issues.
Yeah.
Because the choices we make today,
They shape the world of tomorrow.
so let's make them wisely.
That's it for this deep dive. See you next time.